I want you must have bit idea about OSPF because we can't discuss in detail, right? Because we are not discussing about routing and switching. Just I will try to share the behavior of that routing protocol. Okay. Okay, good evening, guys. So the topic of the day is OSPF routing protocol with FortiGate with FortiGate firewall, right? So that is the FortiGate box. So first of all, you know what is the OSPF. As we know, OSPF is link state routing protocol, right? What is that? That is link state routing protocol, guys. Okay. And as we know, link state routing protocol is like which create the topology table, like database table, right? So an OSPF uses LSAs to create the database. Like it have multiple LSAs, if you know, LSA1, LSA2, LSA3, LSA4, 5, and LSA7. Okay. And in version 3 we have LSA 8 and 9 as well. Okay. But here first we are discussing about OSPF version 2. And this is layer 3 routing protocol, so which is using the multicasters to 24.0.0. What is that? 5 and 6, right? If I'm not wrong. And the protocol number is, what is the protocol number of OSPF? The protocol number is 89. Okay. So first of all, we will discuss about OSPF, how OSPF forms the neighborship. So you must know the neighborship criteria in OSPF. And let me explain you. So suppose if we have two devices, the one is the FortiGate firewall, and the second we have any router. So now, what is the basic criteria of that? Any one of you know about that? Like, what is the basic criteria of the neighborship in OSPF?
Router ID look like interface or the highest interface, I think.
Okay. So the first, there is one thing that is router ID in OSPF, right? So that is OSPF neighbor criteria. The first thing is router ID in OSPF. So router ID must be unique on the devices, right? That can't be duplicated. Otherwise, the devices will not receive the updates from each other. Okay. And the next one is area ID, right? So there is one more area ID, like we have multiple area concept in that. And area ID that remain the same between the routers or the devices. So that means if firewall and router is connected on that link, so that must be part of the same area. Okay. It can't be in different area. Okay. And the next one is, after that we have network. Okay. After that we have timers. So like we have hello timer and we have dead timer, so those must be same, so your timers can't be different. Okay. Okay. And after that, like by default hello timer is 10 seconds. Okay. And dead timer, 4 times of it, that is 40 seconds. Okay. But maybe in type of network, there can be different timers. If we talk about network types, like we have broadcast, point to point, and non-broadcast, okay, and point to multi-point, non-broadcast, point to multi-point. So there are multiple type of, right. And after that we have here authentication. So if I'm trying to use any type of authentication in OSPF, so authentication must be same. So we have three type of authentication, that is plain text, the first one, okay. Then we have, I guess, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is your, actually that is there is password, but that password is actually visible, right. And type 2, we can encrypt the password, okay, in OSPF. And after that we have here area types. So if you are aware about area types, guys, do you know about area types? Like we have normal area by default, right. So I'm talking about here stub areas. If you have any stub area in OSPF, so that must be same on both routers. Like if you have stub area, totally stub area, NSSA, and totally NSSA, okay. And after that we have here network types. So network types also must be same. And in network types, like we have here broadcast, right. So that network types actually defines about your mask. So you can say network mask, okay, that is our subnet mask. So subnet mask must be same in the case of broadcast network, in the case of broadcast network, but that is optional in the case of P2P network in OSPF. So that means if between routers or firewall using P2P, so subnet mask can be different. But if you are using the broadcast, then need to be make sure the network is same or the subnet is same, right. So that is about the neighborship criteria. So make sure you have these parameters for neighborship, okay. And there is one thing in OSPF, that is process ID. So process ID actually defines the device process. It's not about the process which must be common. So process ID actually defines the OSPF process on a particular device. So if I have here like OSPF process ID 10, I can use here a process ID 20. Maybe on FortiGate, even you no need to define the process ID. That automatically give a process to CPU and memory and the storage, right? To run the OSPF process. But we are giving here process number to the routers. Maybe we can use multiple OSPF process at the same time. Okay. Now this is about the neighborship, right. So after that we need to understand here type of area, so we can understand the OSPF behavior. And types of area, guys, we have like first of all LSA 1, if you remember, right. And then we have here LSA 2, which is basically defines the database type, okay. So okay, let me tell you the area type first. So area normally we have one is, that is backbone area, right. So backbone area is our area 0. After that we have normal areas. Normal areas are like from 1 to 4 billion. 1 to 4 billion, because area id is 32 bits. Area id is 32 bits value, okay. So this is 32 bits value. So that means 2 power 32. So these are the total number of areas. So area 0 is the backbone and other areas are normal. But you can make some different areas on the device. If you know, like we have stub area, okay, we have totally stub area, then we have NSSA not so stubby area, and totally not so stubby area, right. So these are multiple type of areas. So normally we are using these areas. So these are some critical type of areas or with some specific requirement, but in production I never have seen these type of areas. If you are talking about from an enterprise network or any data center network, so we don't need stub area, totally stub area, but for theory purpose you can go with that, right, in your enterprise course. So we will talk about these areas, okay. And the next point, if we talk about how routers exchange the database with each other, if I say I have here one network connectivity, so suppose I have here one device and the second device and the third device, it can be router, firewall, or any device. So every device is part of the network. So like here we have one network, and here we have one network, and here we have one network, right? Okay. And we want to exchange these routes with each other on every device. So we are using here one protocol, that is OSPF. So OSPF using some packets like your link state update packet, link state acknowledgement, okay, and those packets are exchanging the routes from one device to another device, okay. So that is actually part of the database now, because database is actual routes, those are exchanged in OSPF, okay. And database is actually small part in LSA, because database is like entire database, every route whatever you are receiving on a OSPF router. But every route can be part of different LSA, that is depend on type of route, like it's a connected route, loopback, or it's the broadcast network. So every type of network is part of different LSA, okay. So the first of all we have LSA1, that is known as guys router LSA, right? And then next we have LSA2, that is network LSA. Then we have LSA3, which is summary LSA. And then we have LSA4, which is uh, ASBR summary LSA. And after that we have LSA5, okay, that is external LSA, you can say. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief idea about every LSA so you can understand, and then I will start the configuration on firewall, okay. Okay, so the first thing, if any one of you know about router LSA, what is router LSA, you can explain me, guys. So you need to understand these points as per the enterprise concept. Okay, so the first one is LSA, router LSA. So router LSA is actually, this is only in same area. So this is not actually LSA1 is only exchange in the same area. Okay, you can say this is only exchange in same area, so you can't forward LSA1 in different area, okay. And this is unique LSA, which is generated by each router in OSPF area. So that means every router is generating your LSA1, and LSA1 is sent by every router in the network, okay. So that means if you have 5 routers in one area, so there is 5 LSA1 on every router, okay. So this is equal to number of routers in same area. So in one area, for an example, like if I'm giving you an idea, I have 10 routers in my area 0. So on every each router have 10 LSA1. What is the meaning of 10 LSA1? That means we have 10 router, and every router generate its own LSA, and that share with everyone. Okay, so if we have total 10 router in the area, So they are going to be okay. They are going to be shared with everyone, right? So for an example, these are the three routers. Okay. Here we have LS7 of R1. Here we have LS7 of R2. Here we have LS7 of R3. So R1 share its LSA to R2, and R2 share its LSA. Okay, like this is my LSA of R1. And R2 share LSA of R1 and R2 to R3, right? And similar R3 share its LSA to R2, and R2 share its own LSA and R3 LSA to R1. So that means R1 has its own LSA, LSA1, R2 LSA1, and R3 LSA1, right? So similar, every router contain all type of LSA. No, sorry, each router LSA. Okay, because they exchange the LSAs with each other, and that's why those LSAs are exist with them, right? So those LSAs actually give information about like what type of network you have, what is the cost of network metric, and calculation. Okay, so these informations you will get here. I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay, and now next we have LSA2. Okay, great. So if you have any doubt, guys, just let me know, because I need to explain it first. Otherwise, when I'm going to be configure on firewall, maybe you will not get my points at that time, and the topic will be boring, right? Okay, and the next one is now in LSA1. Let me explain you what type of information contain. Just I'm giving you idea. We are not moving into the detail. So LSA1 contain like number of interface in OSPF, like how many interfaces are part of OSPF. Okay, and what is the cost of link. That means OSPF is using metric calculation method to check the shortest path, right? And that is cost. Okay, and cost is calculating according to the bandwidth of the link, right? And now after that it gives you the IP and the mask of the interface. Okay, like what is the IP address, what is the mask. Okay, and also give the network information, like what type of network you have, 24 slash 28, like this. Okay, and also give you the idea about the neighborship. Okay, so these informations exchange in your LSA1. These information exchange into LSA1, but this LSA1 is only when we are talking about point-to-point networks in OSPF. Make sure I'm talking about this LSA1 information when network is point-to-point. Point-to-point means only two routers can connect. Like if you know serial links, those were using before, right? But now we have fiber and Ethernet, so those are kind of broadcast network for me. But you can make those broadcast network also as a point-to-point. Okay, but if we have any network like fiber or any Ethernet link on firewall, so that is going to become broadcast network. And as you know, broadcast network means where multiple device can connect through a layer 2 segment. That means if I connect here one switch, right? So I can connect multiple routers with it. I can connect multiple routers with it, right? So that is my broadcast network. So in this broadcast network, like network is maybe 12.1.0/24. Here we have dot .1 IP, dot .2, dot .3 and dot .4. So these are the four routers connected with the same layer 2 segment using one network. So this is a broadcast network for me, right? Broadcast network means where we have Ethernet, media or fiber. So that is count under the broadcast in our OSPF section. Okay. So that means in that case they have some problems. So to resolve that problem in OSPF, the database flooding, they come up with the solution of DR and the BDR, if you remember, right? So DR means on this segment, one of router interface, maybe this interface is going to become DR, the highest IP, and the second highest is going to become the BDR. So that means everyone is giving update to these two routers, okay? Like primary and second primary. So now this router is going to be share update to everyone back, if you remember in OSPF, just to reduce the database unnecessary flooding. So that means like this is the main head router in this particular broadcast network. Everyone gives update to this router and it will give update back to everyone. So they no need to share update directly to each other, right? And that's why OSPF is using these two multicast address 5 and 6. Okay. So due to this problem, now they have divided this LSA1. They have divided this LSA1 into two different okay, into the same LSA1 and LSA2, but with different concept. Like how? So if we have this LSA in point to point network, and the same LSA when it goes with broadcast network, when it goes with, so in this broadcast network they have divided the detail of LSA1. Now LSA1 have now number of interface, still it have number of interface, okay, and it have also the cost of links, how many costs do you have, and even it have IP address of the links, okay. But other two details are now part of which LSA? LSA2, the network LSA. So here we have neighborship information, okay, or you can say neighbor information. And we also have here subnet information, right? So these two details are part of LSA2, not in LSA1, okay. Okay, so that means the detail is same, but that is in point to point network. But if you talk about the broadcast network, in broadcast we have same detail. Okay, so now in broadcast same detail is divided into LSA1 and LSA2. Just the depend is broadcast type network, okay. The thing is same. So this is your LSA2. Now we have LSA3. So you need to understand what is LSA3. If these two LSAs are clear, so just one thing, LSA1 is like giving all the information in point to point network only. Okay, number of interface, the cost of interface, IP, network, and the neighborship. Okay, but in broadcast network we have problem that is like unnecessary database flooding. So they can't share detail or update to everyone directly. So they have DR and BDR concept. So they can just send update to DR router and the BDR router, and the other routers are your DR other. So these are DR other routers. This is BDR backup DR. This is DR, the designated router. Okay. So everyone send updates to this DR router and DR send updates back to everyone. So like the central device who share updates to everyone on this particular broadcast network, not on other links, not on other links. Okay. Not on these links. I'm talking about this particular segment only. Okay. So we have now LSA1 divided into LSA1, a small part, and the other information like neighbor and subnet, that is part of LSA2, which is network LSA for me. Okay. So this is all about in one area. This is all about in one area, guys. So if you remember, if we have multiple area concepts, so like if I have one device here, okay, so maybe now you get my point. So we have this type of network connectivity. I'm assuming this is one area and this is another area. So here we have area 0. Here I'm using area 1, right? So as you know, area 1 LSA and LSA2 is going to be exist here only, and area 0 LSA1 and LSA2 is going to be exist here only. So these routes you can't share in the form of same LSA1 and LSA2 in other area, and these information of LSA1 and LSA2 can't exchange in other area in the same form LSA1 and LSA2. But we need to share the routes from one area to another area, maybe in the form of LSA1 or LSA2. So now we have introduced here LSA3, that is summary LSA. So this summary LSA gives you privilege to share route from one area to another area. So that means I can share area 0 routes in area 1 in the form of LSA3 and area 1 routes in area 0 in the form of LSA3. But we need a special router, or you can say a router which have specific feature who can do this task. So they introduced the router is ABR. What is the router? ABR, area border router. What is that? Area border router, guys. So this area border router actually share routes from one area to another area, and there is requirement. This can be part of like only router can become ABR if this is part of multiple area. Okay, if part of, okay, so let me write down here. What is the requirement of ABR router? So the first requirement is must part of multiple areas. So it must connect at least two areas or multiple areas, and at least part of area 0 or backbone area, right? Why? Because if you are router is not connected with area 0, so it can't be part like it can't become ABR router. So this is the requirement. If router is not connected with area 0, router can't become ABR. Okay, so you can see now R3 is the ABR router in your network. R3 is the ABR router in the network. So R3 have information about LSA1 and LSA2 of area 0. Similar R3 have information about LSA1 and LSA2 of this area. And now using this information, it's going to create here LSA3 and share this LSA3 with area 0. And similar, using this information, create a LSA3, share this LSA information here. So that means R3 is my ABR router who have special powers. Why? Because these two links are connected with area 0 and this link is connected with area 1. So now both requirements are going to be fulfilled. So that's why R3 is the ABR router, right? Okay. I hope this is clear to everyone. So let's start with this information for now, okay, with configuration, and later information I will provide you when I will move with let's say 5 and 4, okay. I hope this is clear to everyone, right? Now, I guess device don't have configuration right now. So what I need to do? I need to configure the device. Okay. So yeah, I need to do some initial configuration that device don't have. So I'm starting with the system interface. add it, and we are going to be configure port number 5. Yeah, so we need to set mode static and set IP 150.1.7.11/24 set. Wait a minute, what is the wrong? Okay, the command is wrong. And set allow HTTP, HTTPS, and ping and end. Okay, and now you can check show system interface and the question mark. So we just did the management interface configuration here. Okay, okay. So the device have IP address. So I will configure rest of configuration through the management, and we have access, and the password is also admin. Okay, later. So now first of all, I will configure the interface configuration. So we have here four interface, if you remember. Port 1 with 10.10, port 2 with 20.10, and port 3 30.10, right? And the management port is already configured. So let's configure the port 1. So that is connected with R1, and here is the manual 10.1.10/24. Okay, you can enable the features and just okay, and similar port 2 is connected with R2. 20.1.1.10/24, and we can enable here ping, so we can ping the firewall at least, and just okay. And port number 3, which is connected with R3. Devices R3, IP address is 30.1.1.10/24. And don't forget to enable ping, so we can just check the connectivity with the device, and okay. And we can check now we have configured port number 1 with this IP, port number 2 and port number 3, and these are the features enabled. Okay, now we have configured the interface, and now I'm going to be enable the routing protocol, right? So first of all, I will configure here OSPF with my LAN router R1, and let me configure OSPF on LAN router. So let me define where we are using the different areas. Okay, so let me put we have here OSPF area 0. Okay, so here we are using OSPF area 0. Duplicate, and here is the area 1, okay, on this router R3 and FortiGate firewall. And the next is R have some loopback, so those I'm going to be make in different area here. Okay, so like R3 have two different areas in that case. Okay, that is area 2, and these loopbacks will be part of that area, and we will see how we can make communication during that. And that is my external here maybe I will use some default route or maybe some other routing protocol for redistribution. Okay, that we will discuss now. So let's start with the configuration on R1. First of all, with area 0. So R1 have 3 loopbacks. Sorry, 4 or 3 loopback. Yeah. So first of all, I will remove here no router rip. Okay. Show IP route. So here we have just connected routes on R1. And what we are going to be do? First of all, I'm going to be enable here router OSPF. As you know, you need to enable here process ID 1. Okay, and I'm going to use the network command like this. Okay, and give here wildcard mask, and the area is 0. So similar I will give for network this. I have 3 loopbacks, those are part of area 0, right? So I did configuration on R1. If you check show IP OSPF neighbor, still we don't have any neighborship. But if you check show IP OSPF interface brief, so these are interface part of OSPF now on R1. So now let's enable the OSPF on FortiGate firewall. So on firewall, we need to move under the OSPF section, but here you can see EIGRP is not available because of EIGRP is actually Cisco proprietary before that, but now EIGRP is open standard, but that is not here. So first of all, you need to give here router ID. So you can give a unique ID on firewall. So suppose I'm giving here this router ID, that should be unique. Okay. After that, you need to create area. So first of all, I'm using area 0. So this is my area 0, right? Okay, and this is my regular area. I am not using any not so stubby area or stubby area. So this is regular one, because area 0 is always regular one. Okay, if I use here like area 1, so area 1 have option like I can make it stubby NSSA. But if you talk about area 0, so area 0 don't have option. So because I can't explain you here in proper, because we need a lot of discussion over that thing. Because the first thing, area 0 is backbone area. So backbone area cannot become as your stub and totally stub, because stub and totally stub actually summarize your routes or LSAs. That is the main reason, right? So right now I'm not using here any authentication. So by default is like none. None means there is no authentication. Second is like plain text where you can see the password. You can configure the password actually. And the last one is like MD5 digest value in OSPF. So this is 3 type of authentication. So keep it the none by default. Okay. So we have area ID regular no authentication. Now you need to advertise the routes under the area. So area is 0, and I want to advertise which one, /24. So this is my network. Okay, because that is connected with my LAN. Okay, and after that interface you need to make which interface part of area 0. So you can give the name is LAN 1 interface, and we have R1 interface. Okay, so IP address is actually already given. I guess that is not required. Okay, just keep it. Here is the cost and the priority. This priority actually helps in DR and BDR election. Okay, authentication is not configured. Okay, BFD is, we can disable it, not required. And you can see the by default network type is broadcast because of the Ethernet link, but you can decide on Ethernet link also non-broadcast, point to point, point to multi-point. Point to multi-point is actually when we have hub and spoke architecture. Okay, And during the SD-WAN, I will show you how we can use that. Okay, and right now keep it the broadcast. And passive interface means where you just don't want to send the hello packet, or where you don't want neighborship. Like on LAN interface, we never have any neighbor in OSPF. Okay, so on LAN interface we can enable passive just to stop sending OSPF hello packets. Okay, and if you have any problem related to MTU, you can ignore here or you can configure the MTU. And later on you can decide that timer for hello and dead. Okay, otherwise it will decide by the network type. So just configure it. So I configured the interface. Okay, and after that we have other option like summary address if you want to make any summarization, but that is not required right now. Okay, after that if you want to inject any default route or any redistribution, okay, so we will talk about later these things. Okay, these are the like AD values of OSPF for every route, intra route in same area, inter area route like LSA3, external for LSA5, and normal distance for LSA1, right? And just apply it. So once you apply here, you will see here neighborship. So wait a minute. Okay, now we have neighborship with 10.1 and with this 1.1.3. That is the highest loopback on R1, and neighborship is in full state now, right? If you refresh, neighborship is in full state. Okay, and just a minute. Where we can move back. Okay, in OSPF. And you can see here we have one neighbor in OSPF, right? So neighborship is done. And if you are trying to check how many routes you are getting, for the second you can check here CLI configuration of OSPF. So in CLI configuration, you can move under configuration router OSPF, set the router ID, configure the area, and then configure the OSPF interface, right? And BFD we have disabled that. And then you can configure the network, and this is your prefix. Okay, later on we can do redistribution and more things. And if you check from the same get router info routing table all, so here you will see these three loopbacks are receiving OSPF. These are three receiving through the OSPF, right? These are the loopback connected on R1, right? So we are receiving the routes and neighborship is formed successfully between the devices, right? So this is in same area. So now I'm going to with area1 on R3. So let's configure the R3 first. And on R3, I'm going to be configure both the areas, guys. Okay. Uh, now router, rip. And now if you check, do show IP interface brief. So I have 3 loopbacks and 30 networks. So I will configure router, OSPF, same process ID. You can configure the router ID by yourself. Okay. And now I'm giving the network command for 30 network first, and this is the wildcard mask with area 1. And now I'm giving for loopback of 3 area 2. So because router 3 have 2 areas, so I will talk here about virtual link in OSPF if you remember. So how we can do that. Okay. Now we did the configuration here. Now configure firewall, right? So we can even configure from here. So what we need to do? Configure area. Just a minute. Actually, we need to check the C commands are a bit. Okay, we have to configure area and under the edit the area. Okay, and here you move under the area, so you have to edit here, edit and edit the area number. So we have here area 1, right? Like this. So this is the new entry, and you can define the type of area here. stub and non-stub. If you are under that area, like set or modify something about it, okay, like authentication type and any comment about that. But we are not giving anything in the area. So now we are moving with the you can do the next. So you are again in the area, and the next command, now you will be in the configuration. Wait a minute, exit, just a minute. The command is get and delete edit. Mhm. Okay, yeah, we have to end it because again we need to configure. Like this is bit configuration is a bit complex from the CLI, because every time you have to end if you are moving in the other process of the OSPF. This is not like a normal router. Okay, so you have to do configure here, and now configure the network. What network you want to configure? Under network, like you have to just edit your new prefix. So what prefix you want to edit? Okay, like we have this entry, and now I'm going to be configure other entry. Okay, and the subnet mask. So here you need to give the subnet mask, and then you need to give the area ID. Okay, so wait a minute. Again, I need to give the ID first, I think, and under the ID I need to configure that. Yeah, so here we have to give that command now. No, what? Okay, we need to set about it. Set. We have to set here prefix, and after that we can set the prefix. Okay. Seriously. Give me a minute. Okay, leave it. I can configure here. So just configure the area. Area is one. Okay. After that, create the network, and that is part of area. And here is network of 30. And after that, we have to configure here interface. Interface is DMG for me, and that is R3. IP, okay, leave it. The okay, just configure it, and now just apply it, right? So now just wait, and we will get here new neighbor. Okay, you can see R3 is also from the neighborship with it, right? And now we check the routing table. Okay, so if you want to check the routing monitor, okay, this is about the neighbor. Wait. Uh, we can check here in the dashboard. So here also we have information about the network. So if you check, we have OSPF, and OSPF is receiving how many routes? Three routes only. Why? It's only receiving the okay. See, it's only receiving the loopbacks of one, not receiving the R3 loopbacks. Why? The first thing in this configuration, what I did, see, here is R3. R3 have two different areas, but R3 is not connected to area 0. That's why R3 cannot share these loopbacks with different area, right? Okay. And and that is the reason R3 is not the ABR router, and that's why not exchanging the routes with firewall. So we will do solution, but after that, okay, before we need to understand the authentication also. So if you want to use authentication in OSPF, you can use the authentication. So first of all, I will configure the authentication on router just to clear the LSA1 and LSA2 things. Okay. Okay. Just a minute, guys. Okay. Now Okay, am I audible, everyone? Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So we were discussing about to use authentication on firewall, right? So authentication we have three types. So by default is no authentication. So no authentication means like they are not sending any authentication. The field is empty, right? But if I go on the OSPF configuration under the network section, so here for neighbor we have authentication method. Like if I go for, wait a minute, where is my configuration? So we have here LAN interface, right? So in this LAN interface, if I go to edit, so I have two options. So on interface, I can configure authentication or in area. So area means all routers, those are part of area, they must use the authentication. And interface meaning means which device is only part of this interface. So that must use the same authentication. So first I'm using the plain authentication. And here I can change like I'm using the, okay, change it. I'm using admin 123, right? If you see authentication is this, and now let's enable it and apply the change. So we have plain text authentication here. So if you see on the device will down the neighborship now. Why? Because authentication is here with R1 on interface and show IP OSPF neighbor. So the neighborship is still here, but it will just complete the dead timer and then it will be down. Why? Because after every 10 second, if there is hello packet and dead timer is 40 second. So that means after every 30 second, there should be renewal of this dead timer, right? If there is no renewal, that means there is problem and the dead timer is about to expire. Okay, now you can see the dead timer is about to expire. So what we need to do, we need to configure the authentication. I'm moving on interface, it's 0 by 0. Wait a minute, yeah, it's 0 by 0. IP OSPF authentication, IP OSPF authentication. Okay, the by default is null, so we have to type here. Wait a minute. Database that timer. IP authentication. No, wait a minute. I forget the command. The command is IP OSPF authentication. And after authentication, there is keychain. Keychain we are not using. We are not using MD5 digest. Give me a minute. Okay, so that is key. And here we can define admin 123, right? So this is the command where we can define and show an interface. It's 0 by 0. So we have enabled the authentication and that is the plain text. If you check show IP OSPF interface, it's 0 by 0. And this is simple password authentication in, okay, and we define the password and you can check now show IP OSPF neighbor. So neighborship is again formed, right? And if similar you check in OSPF here, see we just enabled Plain text authentication on port number 1, and here you can see is the password. So password never visible here actually, right? And now you have neighborship. uh, Get router OSPF. Okay, so you have here information about OSPF, like what is the configuration, all the router ID and the timers. And if you are using any information, like here you have area ID information. We have two areas, area 0 and 1. These are the two interfaces, and these are the network prefixes. Okay, and after that we have here redistribution information, what we have redistributed, right? This information we can see here. Now we did the plain text authentication. So the next move is about MD5 authentication, right? So we can move with R3. Here OSPF MD5 authentication. And okay. Just a minute, where we can define the key in MD5. Just a minute. And MD5. Okay, it have MD5. Wait. We have not defined the password yet. So maybe the password is not here. That should be through the CLI. Before that, let me configure on R3, because now neighborship is not on R3. Neighborship is done, right? Or you can see the neighborship is expired here. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's about to expire. And see. Now we don't have neighborship, right? So the first thing we need to configure here. Interface is 0 by 0. IP OSPF authentication. Method MD5 digest. Okay. And IP. नहीं आया कुछ. Sorry. Keychain, and we need to define the keychain. Wait a minute, not the keychain. We define mode IP OSPF authentication. Okay, we defined the MD5 digest. That is the method, and after method we need to define the keychain. Wait a minute, but this keychain is for. Just give me a minute. IP authentication. Give me a minute. Okay. Yes, this is the command IP OSPF authentication. not authentication. Here we need to define the MD5 digest actually. Yeah. So here we can define the key ID and MD5, and the key is like admin123 for me. Okay. So that how we define on the router R3. If you check, show an interface 0 by 0. So these two commands are required. So you have to make sure what is the command, because every platform have different commands, right? So similar, we need to configure now authentication on FortiGate firewall, right? Sorry for interruption, guys. So now we need to configure on firewall, and on firewall I need to configure through the CLI. Okay. So first of all, what we need to do, configure router keychain. So here we need to configure the keychain, add it, and give the name. Name is like OSPF for me, right? And after that we have to configure the key, and whatever key we are using here. Okay, under that we have to set key, like key ID must match. I configured key ID 1 there, so that should be same. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, edit and edit the key ID. Okay, and after this you need to set the algorithm, and algorithm is MD5 for me. Okay, so that how I configured. And now I need to move in the OSPF, guys. So just wait a minute. Key string must be okay. I forgot the key string. Just a minute. Okay, under OSPF, we are under OSPF, and after that, we just configure the key. Okay, and add it. We are on sequence number 1. Set algorithm. We define the MD5, right? No, wait a minute. That is MD5. Set key string. Yeah, key string is required. So the key string is admin123 for me, and maybe you need to configure accept the lifetimes as well, but I guess let me try. Maybe that is not required. Okay, yeah, accept lifetime is also required. Set accept lifetime start from now. So we have to make start. What's wrong now? That is in capital. Wait a minute. Start and end, right? Mm, Okay, so like what is the time right now? It's 01 colon 01 and 00. Okay, and after that like 01 and 01 month and day, month and year, right? So I don't know what is the time. So like make it 19 like this. Okay, this is the time. Node object fails for accepting time. The error before start. Value phrase error before start. Okay, so the start is not actually in the command. Uh, make it 2000. Incomplete command in the end. Okay, we have to add here, right? Just a minute. We have set here, okay, and everything. And duration we have to end, okay, we can set the duration like this. So that is like end date. I will send here. Copy and paste. Okay, and after that set you have to send this time now. Okay, and we will configure the same. Copy and paste. Okay, so what is the what is the time on your device? Accordingly you can configure these things. So we have now configure the key, and we configure the string and the lifetime. So we can end now. What string must be set? We have already set the string. Okay, maybe not because sorry. Okay, just a minute. I can copy paste this one. Okay, after that we have to set here key string, which is admin123. And okay, we have added key and all key string. We need to set the algorithm also. So all the commands must be in the one time. So that's why. Okay, yeah, now it's working for me. Okay, so we configured the string. So if you check show configure router keychain, right? And if you check here, so this is our keychain. So we have to use OSPF, which have key ID 1, and the string is this, and this is the starting and ending date of it, right? And now similarly we have to mention this the
I had a
OSPF.
question, sir. I had a question.
Yes, please.
So, would it be easier if you did it on the GUI?
Because GUI is not giving the option. If you check on GUI, there is no option. What I checked. So I told you, on second class there are few features that should be through the CLI. So if you don't get on GUI, so you can go for just uh, okay, check here how to configure MD5 OSPF authentication on FortiGate. So you have to check from here. Okay, yeah, it is given here. And see, so it's giving the same idea. You can configure here, like it's not even giving the idea from the GUI, it's giving idea from the CLI. Why? Because that is from the CLI. Okay, So you have to configure here, and after that, that is Mexa. That is the another authentication method. Okay, if you want to use, and then you can move under the area, and you have to type authentication type. Okay, under the area or under the interface you can type. Okay, and
Oh,
you have to type here under the interface your authentication keychain. What is the number? Number is like 11 here, but keychain we have given here OSPF. Like here is 11, but we have given here OSPF, if you remember, right? So I will move under the OSPF and then configure OSPF interface and edit the interface number. So that is, I guess, edit number 2 for me.
oh, okay.
Okay, so if you go again, configure router OSPF and show. Wait a minute. Yeah, so we need to check here. Okay, let me show you here on the this browser. It should be better. Configure OSPF and show. So check. We have to configure on DMZ interface. So we have to move under the DMZ, right? And before that, we need to move under the OSPF configuration, right? So under that, and we have to add it on DMZ. So I will move under the edit DMZ here. And now, what was the command here? Command was, you can check from here, because even I can't remember the commands. Okay, so set authentication MD5 digest, and then we have to type here keychain. Okay, so set authentication. We already defined the MD5 digest in the GUI if you check. Okay, and now keychain. What is the name of the keychain? See, the keychain name is given here OSPF. So that is your keychain, right? And now I guess you can end here. So now your authentication must be visible. So check router OSPF. Wait a minute. Do we have, okay, this is the configuration only. We want to get router ISIS, okay, PFT, OSPF is here. Okay, this is about the configuration. Just let me check on the GUI. Okay, again you can see the neighborship is here. If I refresh the page, see the neighborship is here. So that means neighborship is now done. So you need to configure few things through the GUI. Even I will show you in other configuration. Maybe we are going to configure some policies, or we are going to be configure some security profiles, right? So even you have option here, policy and the profiles. Okay, here is the, you can see policy, and here is the profile, security profiles, like what antivirus profile, right? And the web filter, video filter, DNS, application control, IPS, okay, SSL. So you have here maybe few features you have to configure through CLI. So CLI is sometimes better in the case of this product. Okay, and the most of things, those are not given on the GUI, so that should be through the CLI. Okay, so now we have done the neighborship, and we are done with the neighborship on R3 using the MD5 authentication. Show IP OSPF neighbor, right? So you can check neighborship is done here, and you can see we are using broadcast network. We have DR and BDR concept here also. Okay, is that clear? And if you check on the firewall, I guess that command will help. Maybe on this image we are not getting info OSPF neighbor all. Yeah, that is the command. So we can see we have here information. Okay, and if you want to check the database, get router info OSPF. So you can check here LSAs. So through LSA you can check the database command, right? So wait a minute, database. After database, we need to define type of database. So I'm talking about all the database, but like normal router, it will not give you output of all database. So just you have to check router. That is LS7. Wait a minute. Do I need to give okay IDs as well? But wait a minute. Can I check directly? Status. Okay, this is about the all configuration. So we have 0 and area 1, you can check. Okay, and number of LSAs that you are receiving even here, and after that you can check interface, route, neighbor, border router status, and virtual link. Okay, so now next point is we can say about virtual link. So what is virtual link and what is the requirement of virtual link in this diagram? So guys, if you remember, in OSPF, okay, now just understand the concept. If one router is here, second router, third router, and fourth router, right? And between the routers, I'm using here now area concept. Suppose here I'm using area 0, here is area 1, here is area 2, right? So in that case, R2 is going to become the ABR who will share area 0 routes to area 1, area 1 routes to area 0. But R3 is connected with area 1 and area 2, but this is not the ABR router. Why? Because this is not connected with your backbone area, right? So if this is not connected with the backbone area, that means these routes of area 2 will never send into this area or even into the area 1. Okay. So what we have to do here, now we need to connect it through a virtual link. So I will make here like virtual link. I will make here one virtual link between R2 and R3. So this virtual link make field to R3. R3 is connected with area 0. Okay. So that virtual link is going to be happen over the area 1, right? Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, I will make firewall as ABR device in that case. It's already ABR. If you check, firewall is already ABR. Just let me try to show you. I need to check the command first, okay? Because I'm very bad at ALI of the device. But let's try. Okay, maybe in this output it must show its OSPF process ID. We are see there is one thing, and what about that? This is ABRY connected with area 0 and area 1. So it's already ABR. Firewall is already ABR, right? Just what we are trying to achieve here, I'm trying to make here virtual link between these two devices. So I want to make virtual link from firewall to router. Okay, because area 0 is connected here. This is area 0 and this is your area 1 and this is your area 2. So we want to advertise these routes in area 0. So area 0 can advertise these routes in area 1 also. So even these routes will not visible in area 1. Okay, if you check on firewall, these routes are not here. Why? Because firewalls receive through area 1 if the routes are advertised by R3, but those are not advertised. So just we have to form here virtual link, okay, on R3 for firewall and firewall for R3, but that is over the normal area 1, right? So let's make this. So I need to move to R3 first. And now under the OSPF, you need to move here and area 1 virtual link, give the router ID of the router with you want to form virtual link. So in that case, firewall is our route, the device with this router ID, and area, through which area you are trying to establish the virtual link. So virtual link is over on area 1, because firewall and router 3 sharing area 1 with each other, right? So area 1 is the like underlay for your backbone. So that's why I have given area 1 virtual link router ID of firewall. So similar on firewall CLI, I need to configure that. I need to configure that. So move to the firewall CLI configuration, router, OSPF, and configure area, and I need to define here edit my area 1. So area 1 is 1, right? So we are under the area 1. Now here you have to be give set, wait a minute, area type. Okay, I want to set, yeah, no, I don't want to set, I want to config, my bad. So that is config, and config a virtual link, right? And virtual link you have to be okay. Now given the ID here, add it, give the name is like with my R3, okay? And now with R3 you want to set the virtual link. Just a minute, is it with set or config? It's with config, I guess. Wait a minute, authentication, hello timer, peer, yeah, that is set. So you need to define the peer IP, and R3 is the peer with this IP address, right? And now if you give the next, yeah, that command is working for us. And end, okay, show router OSPF now, and we can see the configuration is here. So you need to move to the OSPF, then area. Under area you have to edit area 1 virtual link, give the name to the virtual link R3, and set peer and then next, right? So now we have to check firewall also going to be from another neighborship with R3 virtual link, right? And just to check, router info OSPF neighbor all. So it must have two neighborship with R3, and you can check it have just two neighborship with R3. One is over the physical link for area 1. So this is for area 1, right? And this is on your virtual link. So now it's like directly connected with loopbacks. Those are behind your R3, and now it will get the routes. And see, now we have loopbacks, and even with the loopback you are getting IA, that is part of, where is it, inter area. Those are coming from another area, right? So that how you can form the virtual link. Okay guys, okay, so I hope this is clear to everyone, how we can form the virtual link and the uh, authentication in OSPF. So the next point is, if I talk about external routes, okay, so right now we are talking about the external routes, how we can advertise external routes in OSPF, how to advertise external prefix in OSPF, right? So OSPF is receiving the external prefix using the LSA 5, using the LSA 5. Okay, so we have here LSA 5. First let's talk about that. So LSA 5 is known as external LSA. Okay, so it have two type of LSA. By default is we have E2 type 2. Okay, type 2 actually have default cost only. Okay, default cost, like normally on router we are receiving 20, we need to check on firewall, and that never adds additional cost in OSPF network. So that means if device is getting just default cost on your router, which is giving you external route, like that router is known as ASBR, okay, which send external route in OSPF in the form of LSA 5. So that is ASBR router, autonomous uh, system boundary router. Okay, so that is ASBR, and that generates E2 routes by default with default cost and never add the OSPF cost, because every link contains some cost in OSPF, so they only have default cost in that case, right? But we can change the external route types in E1. In E1, there is a redistribution, and that also add the OSPF cost. Okay, add the OSPF cost in network. So that means if packet is passing through one router, that router also add it cost and send to the next one. Okay, that is the concept. So LSA 5 is actually the external routes, those are coming into the OSPF, those are coming into the OSPF. So that means now I have, like, here we have R1, and here is the firewall, and here is the R3, right? And we have here like internet. So internet have some routes. So the first thing, we can generate here one default route, okay, and advertise the default route in domain. That is the first option. And default route also generate in the form of LSA 5, in the form of LSA 5. Okay. And next thing, if I have some routes here and I want to redistribute, those also come in LSA 5. So that we can also receive in the OSPF domain, right? So we have to make this device as your ASPR, which is part of OSPF domain and also connected with the external domain. External domain can have just default route, or there can be any another routing protocol like BGP or something else, right? Okay, or EIGRP is not supported actually. So we must use ISIS or BGP in that case. Okay. And after that, now there is one more thing. If like this ASBR is part of area 0 and area 1 directly here, so whenever it's not connected in the same area, like here we have maybe one more router, okay, so that is part of area 3. So in that case, R1 is going to be generate here LSA 4 just to inform who is the ASBR router. So that is the requirement of LSA 4, but we don't have such design here. But you don't need to worry, automatically device generates the LSA 4, and who generates the, which is connected with area 0 and normal area, that is ABR device, that is ABR device. Okay, so just let's try to generate here LSA 5 in this domain. So on firewall, I will just give a static route for these loopbacks. Okay, and how to give the static route? Configure router static, edit one. We need to give gateway first, and who is the gateway? 20.2, right? Set Wait a minute, is it prefix or something? Gateway done, status destination IP and mask. Okay, wait a minute. Set destination. Okay, and we can end it. Okay, attribute device must be set. Yeah, I need to set that one thing also. Router static. Edit one. Okay. Gateway set device. Device means we need to set the port number, and port number is 2. Okay. So these are the three things required, and now static route is done. If you check get router info, router static. So we have now static route, and this static route we want to advertise into now we can advertise through the GUI also. Admin. Wait a minute. Move to the network section, and here we have OSPF configuration. So in OSPF we have directly here, you can see the redistribution. Wait a minute. Yeah, here we have redistribution, so we can redistribute this or any other routing protocol. So default metric is here 0. Like in the case of Cisco router, it's 20. So you can set here, and by default it's type to write E2 route. Okay? You can set even if you want, and you can do any kind of filtering if you want. So just apply it. I will show you in the next class about filtering and the advanced OSPF. So in real environment, these are required, and even in the case of BGP. So you must know about filtering also. And in the case of filtering, you can set the filter, but I guess you have to configure by yourself, or you can create from here through CLI also, or through GUI also. Like you can route map, or you can match interface section, the prefix. Okay, so that we will see how we can filter the traffic. Just for now, allowed all traffic and apply it. And now let's try to check, are we receiving the routes on the router, the external routes. Show IP route. We are receiving the external route, guys. Okay, so that how we can check we are receiving the external prefix on this. Okay, I hope this is clear to everyone. So guys, is there any doubt till now? So we just discuss about LSA 1, 2, 3, and 5, and 4 is the need by ASBR router.